Hi everyone, I'm Eggy. Today we're going to talk about whether a Big Mac can defeat a lion. A lot of people are really curious about this question, aren't they? Scientists study black holes and they also study cancer. But today we're here to explore a far more important question. Can a Big Mac defeat a lion? This isn't a joke. It's a true interdisciplinary expedition calling upon nutrition, physics, zoology, and psychology alike. Don't rush to laugh. Join me as we see whether the Big Mac might truly stand even the faintest chance of challenging the king of beasts. Perhaps you think lions are powerful and fierce, while the Big Mac is merely an innocent burger. Comparing the two seems utterly absurd. Yet isn't human progress precisely built upon repeated acts of absurd yet courageous imagination? When Newton was struck on the head by an apple, he could hardly have anticipated it would inspire the theory of gravity. When Columbus set sail, he certainly didn't know he was about to set foot on an unknown continent. Thus, we have every reason, and a daring confidence, to explore how a Big Mac, built from humble layers of buns, beef patties, lettuce, and cheese, might evolve into a force capable of challenging a lion. We'll dissect whether the calories in a Big Mac could fuel a charge across the African savanna. We'll call upon physics to calculate whether its kinetic and potential energy could intimidate a lion's muscular frame. We'll delve into nutritional science to investigate whether its proteins and fats could provide explosive power. And of course, we won't neglect the fascinating possibility of psychological warfare. Might a lion, confronted by an unfamiliar and mysterious opponent, fall into confusion or even fear? Ready? Let's unveil the mystery of this surreal showdown. The Big Mac, first born in 1967 at a McDonald's restaurant in Pennsylvania, stands as one of modern fast food's most iconic creations. Visually, it consists of 3 soft sesame seed buns encasing 2 perfectly cooked pure beef patties. Between these layers are crisp shredded lettuce, crunchy pickles, melted cheddar cheese, and McDonald's signature secret Thousand Island dressing. This construction achieves not only a balance of sight and taste, but also packs substantial nutritional value. Viewed from a physics perspective, the Big Mac can be seen as a layered composite structure. The buns provide elasticity, absorbing external shocks. The beef patties contain abundant protein, theoretically capable of supplying bursts of energy. The cheese and sauce are rich in fats, serving as ample energy reserves for sustained combat, while the lettuce and pickles add fiber and vitamins, maintaining structural integrity and preventing internal decay, thus prolonging its battle lifespan. In this sense, the Big Mac shows certain traits that might, to some degree, suit it for battle. It's shock-absorbent, energy-packed, and structurally stable, almost like the tank of the fast food world. A typical Big Mac weighs about 215 grams and packs 550 kilocalories, including 25 grams of protein and 29 grams of fat. Such figures hardly compare to the lion's 500-pound muscular might. But remember, real battles aren't fought purely on paper. Once thrown into the savannah's battlefield, the Big Mac's advantages begin to shine. First, it has zero fear. It knows no terror, being a burger after all. Second, it boasts a natural psychological advantage. Its enticing aroma and vivid colors might disrupt a lion's olfactory and visual systems, tempting the beast into a struggle between desire and confusion, potentially distracting it from its real target. Even more intriguingly, the Big Mac's unique architecture grants it excellent stackability. In dire circumstances, it could quickly assemble into a Big Mac tower or a Great Wall of Big Macs, aiming for victory through sheer numbers. This modular design bears a resemblance to ant colonies or swarming bees, hinting at theoretically infinite expansion potential in battle. In a way, the Big Mac has already conquered numerous rivals. McDonald's sells over 500 million Big Macs each year. Measured by popularity and human investment, the Big Mac is unquestionably a super predator in the global food chain. Although it's never faced an actual lion, one can't help but imagine its hidden potential and seemingly absurd yet undeniable competitive edge. The lion, revered as the king of beasts for millennia, occupies a majestic and mysterious place in human imagination. We're all familiar with its imposing figure, especially the magnificent mane of the male lion, as though nature designed it a royal cloak, always ready for the grandest banquets of the savannah. Of course, the entree at such a feast is far more likely to be zebra or antelope than a burger packed with beef and lettuce. Yet, a closer examination of the lion's physique reveals fascinating secrets. Lions possess highly developed muscle structures, particularly around the scapula and limbs, granting explosive power and impressive speed. They can accelerate to 80 km/h, about 50 more, in mere seconds, a performance rivaling that of a supercar fueled with premium gasoline. Were a lion to live in a modern city, it would easily blast through traffic cameras, racking up countless speeding tickets. Sadly, or luckily, wildlife remains outside the jurisdiction of traffic law. But the lion's arsenal extends beyond speed. Its bite force nears 2,900 newtons, equivalent to the power of a strong adult biting down with 100 times more force than necessary to chew tough jerky. Coupled with canines sharp enough to penetrate bulletproof glass, a lion can effortlessly crush the bones of its prey. But what if the prey has no bones at all? Say, if the opponent were a soft, springy mass of bread and beef, perhaps the lion would pause in existential confusion. Where exactly should I sink my teeth? Moreover, lions wield razor-sharp, retractable claws, agile and immensely powerful. Yet, as a philosopher once said, sharp swords cannot cut flowing water. When facing a soft, elastic opponent, claws may become a cumbersome liability. Imagine a lion standing on the African plains, confronting a burger utterly indifferent to its royal menace. No matter how fiercely it slashes or grapples, the opponent remains unfazed, a level of nonchalance that could deeply insult the lion's regal dignity. Of course, lions are social creatures. They form prides, hunting together, but internal conflicts can quickly fracture cooperation. Picture the pride suddenly realizing their mutual enemy isn't a typical prey animal, but a mysterious object radiating an irresistible meaty aroma. Discord would be inevitable. Should we eat it or not? Could this be some sort of trap? Such hesitation could cripple the pride's morale, distracting them from their original purpose. In the colossal anime-style arena, known as the Colosseum of Europa, the imperial lion, its mane ablaze like molten gold, roars with thunderous force, shaking the skies. Each swipe of its claws scorches flaming gashes into the metallic floor, symbols of unmatched wealth, industrial might, and divine authority. Opposite it stands an opponent almost laughably soft and diminutive, the Big Mac, its buns puffed and lightly toasted, beef patties sizzling with tempting fat, lettuce defiantly poking out at the edges, cheese flowing like molten liquid sunlight. It seems tiny, steaming, radiating the aroma of bustling city streets, a presence utterly out of place amidst the arena's grim, epic solemnity. The battle horn bellows like a beast's lament. The lion launches a textbook golden charge, its claw whines slicing the air into golden vacuum blades, its massive body carrying a momentum capable of crushing all in its path. It wants to swallow this pesky intruder whole, but just as the lion's colossal jaws are about to snap shut, the burger moves, not by resisting or dodging, but by disassembling and reassembling. As if guided by an unseen hand, the fluffy buns split apart like two giant trampolines, springing upward on the violent air currents generated by the lion's charge. With a whoosh, they narrowly evade the lion's gleaming fangs. Meanwhile, the dense beef patty liquefies, transforming into a scalding, aromatic lava trap, precisely pooling where the lion's next paw step will land. A defiant lettuce leaf becomes a semi-transparent, glowing vein energy shield, unfurled directly in the path of the lion's claws. Flexible, yet strangely deflective, it turns a blow capable of splitting mountains into a harmless ripple of energy, as if striking slippery jelly. Roar! The lion roars in rage, golden mane bristling, gathering a devastating, divine roar breath. A blazing sphere of white light charged with purifying wrath. Yet the burger remains calm. Its molten cheese core suddenly erupts with dazzling brilliance. It wisely avoids a direct beam clash, too foolish, instead unleashing its ultimate move, thousand-layer patty, Mirage Labyrinth. Countless miniature, delicious-smelling burger illusions proliferate like cell division, blanketing the entire arena. Each illusion carries a hint of the original's scent, but warps into bizarre forms in the refracted glow of the molten cheese. The lion's divine breath surges forth, only to scatter uselessly among the maze of burger reflections, bouncing and dispersing until it dissipates into nothing, leaving behind only smoky air laced with grilled meat aromas. As the lion staggers, dizzy from the illusions and overwhelmed by the tantalizing scents, the true finishing move strikes. The two buns, which had catapulted skyward, now rain down like a fully drawn solar god's bow. They transform into lethal, ultimate burger lids, their edges flashing with serrated energy blades. With the impact force of meteors and a psychic taunt screaming, "Try this! Extra double stack!" they slam down. The target? The lion's soft throat and abdomen, exposed as it rears back to roar. Simultaneously, the pool of beef lava on the arena floor boils up, spawning countless tasty tentacles of searing fat and concentrated meat juices. These coil tightly around the lion's limbs, the intense heat and slippery texture shattering its balance and grace. Splurt! Sizzle! A double blow lands true. The energy blades spark dazzlingly against the golden mane, unable to fully penetrate, but delivering a crushing impact that sends stars spinning before the lion's eyes. Meanwhile, the boiling meat juice tentacles scorch the beast's fur and compromise its once proud footing. For the first time, the mighty lion's hulking body lurches backward like a clumsy puppet, howling in humiliation and pain. Its vision spins and warps, the burger aroma mingling with the acrid scent of singed fur, creating a dizzying absurdity. Just as it tries to steady itself, ready to counterattack, the lion's massive paw lands squarely on a single, innocuous, perfectly round pickle slice left behind on the floor during the chaos. Squeak! Time seems to slow. The proud golden lion, the monarch of all beasts, under the watchful gaze of countless burger reflections and amidst swirling clouds of barbecue-scented smoke, suddenly spins helplessly, paws flailing, crashing down with thunderous force, straight into an enormous bubbling cauldron of scalding vegetable oil that has somehow appeared in the corner of the arena. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle! A golden tidal wave of oil explodes into the air. The scalding heat engulfs the bewildered beast. Its magnificent once regal pelt curls and browns in the oil, crackling in a sound both horrifying and oddly appetizing. It struggles in vain, sending droplets of molten fat raining down like a shimmering golden storm. Meanwhile, the Big Mac lands serenely on the pan's edge. Its buns soak in the residual heat, relishing a final touch of crispy aroma. The molten cheese core glows with satisfied gold. It doesn't gloat, it simply watches the lion transform from invincible monarch into a gargantuan deep-fried lion's head, silently conveying a cosmic truth. In the absurd arena of life, sometimes defeating seemingly invincible beasts requires not sharper claws or heavier armor, but a bit of slipperiness, unexpected disassembly and reassembly, enticing aromas to sow chaos, and a strategically placed, tangy pickle slice. The balance of victory often tilts upon such tiny, overlooked ingredients, ignored by the logic of the invincible. Centuries ago, European history offered a similarly bizarre and vivid tale. A seemingly mismatched contest unfolded. The mighty, fearsome Spanish Invincible Armada set sail, vowing to conquer the tiny island nation of England. In the summer of 1588, the Spanish Empire, then the undisputed lion of Europe, marched forth like a golden man beast. It boasted endless silver and gold from the Americas, the finest military forces in Europe, and the backing of supreme religious authority. Under Philip II, the lion roared across the continent, shaking the earth beneath its paws and demanding submission from all. Philip himself was every bit the regal Lion King, imposing, stubborn, gazing upon the world with imperial disdain. England, on the other hand, was the unassuming underdog, more akin to a fluffy burger, poorer, less populous, lacking a strong regular army. It seemed utterly outmatched. Yet England held unique advantages. It was surrounded by sea, and its people were natural sailors. Spain's Lion resolved to crush this bothersome island. The Armada, over 130 warships carrying nearly 30,000 trained soldiers and sailors, was nearly unmatched in European history. Such overwhelming power seemed poised to devour England in a single bite. But events took a fantastical turn, worthy of a children's picture book. Upon reaching the English Channel, Spain found no easy victory. The English, like ingenious chefs with wild imaginations, deployed cunning tactics. Their ships were smaller, lighter, more agile, much like a Big Mac's ability to assemble and disperse rapidly, making it impossible for the Lion's mighty claws to find purchase. England's fleet harried the Spaniards with hit-and-run strikes, while Spain's fearsome claws flailed helplessly amid the vast waves. Even more shocking, the English devised a fire ship attack. Old vessels were set ablaze and sent drifting into the Spanish fleet. The Lion recoiled in fear, its formations thrown into chaos. Spanish commanders panicked, ordering a retreat that shattered discipline and cohesion. A once mighty armada broke apart. Its morale shattered. Pushed into narrow waters, the Invincible Armada became hopelessly disoriented. Many ships succumbed to storms and treacherous coastlines while attempting a desperate return via Scotland and Ireland. A battle once deemed a sure Spanish victory transformed into a Big Mac-style comedy, where the Lion seemed to choke on the burger's soft buns, flailing in humiliating defeat. In the end, England prevailed. Spain lost nearly two-thirds of its ships, and over two-thirds of its sailors and soldiers perished from battle, storms, disease, and starvation. Though England paid a price in depleted ammunition and thousands of casualties, it avoided conquest and began rising as a maritime power. Yet this battle did not immediately extinguish Spain's naval strength, nor did it leave England unscathed. Let us dismantle the telescope of history and refract its lenses towards subtler, more elusive lights. That roaring tumult upon the sea, the golden armored lion's roar, the soft island's cunning, the storm's wild laughter, has long since sunk into the ocean currents of time. Yet, beneath the surface, something nameless always seems to stir. Not a concrete image, but rather a texture, a sensation, like fingertips brushing dusty old silk, or eyes gazing into a kaleidoscope where geometries collapse and reassemble in an instant. Imagine the universe as a vast, silent watchmaker's workshop. Inside, there is no familiar ticking, only a near-frozen, breathtaking precision. Gears mesh with gears, levers drive levers, each part in its pre-calculated place, executing an unchanging eternal path. The materials are the strongest alloys, polished to a mirror sheen, reflecting a cold, deterministic glow. This might be the purest form of invincibility, an absolute logic that excludes all chance, all accident, all possibility. It is immense, imposing, unquestionable, like star tracks cast in gold, permitting light to flow only along predetermined routes. And yet, in the corner of the workshop, a pile of seemingly worthless scrap stirs. There are no precious metals, perhaps just twisted bits of copper wire, shards of oddly shaped seashells, or a few windblown seeds. Their very presence pollutes that perfect order. The watchmaker might frown, attempting to sweep them into the trash to maintain pristine cleanliness. But among those scraps, a faint, nearly imperceptible resonance begins. Copper wires tremble under whispers of a magnetic field. The curve of a shell accidentally captures and amplifies a certain sound frequency. Seeds, drawing in a trickle of moisture from the crevices, put forth frail, untimely green shoots. This insignificant disturbance ought to be drowned out completely in the symphony of giant gears. But it isn't. The trembling, the captured wave frequency, the tiny pulse released by that sprouting shoot are like pebbles dropped into a still lake, sending ripples quietly spreading through the seemingly unbreakable order. Somewhere, in the most delicate and crucial miniature gear, a grain of barely visible shell dust lands on its bearing. Through countless perfect rotations, this tiny particle accumulates infinitesimal friction. Once, twice, 10,000 times. Until finally, in an unforeseeable moment, the slight resistance causes an imperceptible misalignment. A tooth on one gear lightly collides with the neighboring tooth. It was supposed to clear perfectly. Click. The sound is so soft it nearly doesn't exist. Amid the workshop's grand mechanical thunder, it's like a sigh. Yet it is precisely this sigh that topples the first domino. That microscopic misalignment ripples outward, transmitted to the adjoining levers. A slight deviation in the lever's motion path propagates into larger gear systems. The meticulously calculated equilibrium collapses. At first, it's a local, barely detectable vibration, like the watch developing a faint fever. The vibration transmits and multiplies through the metal framework. The cold glow of certainty begins to flicker and waver. The tough alloy, under unpredictable stress, emits an intricate groan that only the material itself can hear. In the end, it's not an external hammer blow, but that speck of dust, that hint of green, that fleeting tremor accumulating uncontainable tension inside the system, that causes one of the load-bearing bearings, once the bedrock of the invincible logic, to sprout a hairline fracture. The crack propagates silently, like destiny scrawling a messy signature across the metal. When it reaches its critical threshold, the bearing suddenly fails. The colossal structure doesn't shatter from outside blows, but collapses from within, beginning precisely at the most minute, most ignored point of contamination. Perfect gears stop turning. The cold glow extinguishes. The workshop falls into an eerie silence, save for the whispering resonance among the scraps and the settled dust. And the tiny shoot that, in the shadow of the fallen metal giant, grows another millimeter toward the slender shaft of daylight, piercing the crack. This silent collapse fascinates me far more than any naval storm. It reveals a cosmic itch. We endlessly build grand plans, mighty fortresses, rigorous chains of logic, striving like the watchmaker to impose absolute order upon life's chaotic flood. We believe invincibility lies in becoming bigger, stronger, more precise, excluding every impurity, ensuring everything flows along controlled tracks. Yet stories constantly remind us that perhaps the seeds of collapse are hidden within the logic of invincibility itself, left behind by the total expulsion of randomness, surprise, and the unexpected. A vacuum is fragile. It yearns to be filled, and what fills it is never the next perfect gear we've designed, but the dust brought by a stray breeze, the seed dropped from the craftsman's pocket, or the minuscule stress defect originating in a star's birth that no instrument can detect. It's precisely these errors deemed unacceptable by order, the vitality, the randomness, the tiny glimmers of chaos that, over vast timescales, erode the foundations of the invincible like water wearing away stone. This is not to deny the value of building, but to glimpse its paradox. When we pour every effort into forging an invincible fleet, armored with the heaviest steel, bristling with the mightiest guns, governed by the strictest discipline, are we not inadvertently creating a target too sensitive to even a gentle breeze? A single unanticipated gust of air, a sudden idea, a stray bullet off course, an accidental blunder, a rusting rivet deep within the hull, a small, long-suppressed discontent. Any of these could become the grain of dust triggering internal resonance. The more rigid our quest for absolute control and the expulsion of all anomalies, the greater the tension building inside the system until some tiny disturbance becomes the last straw. Enlightenment, perhaps, lies not in discovering a new form of invincible, but in embracing the existence of those scraps in the workshop's corner, in recognizing that life's resilience, creative spark, and even the chance of victory often stem not from ever more perfect plans or greater force, but from a system's capacity to accommodate disturbances. It lies in the delicate dance along the border between order and chaos. Like the ocean itself, which embraces storms yet nurtures calm, which welcomes the giant whales and does not exclude the swirl of plankton. Its strength lies not in remaining forever unruffled, but in preserving its deep, unpredictable wholeness through countless cycles of shattering and renewal. So next time our carefully built, perfect logic sprouts a tiny crack, when an unplanned speck of dust falls into our intricate gears, perhaps we shouldn't panic and try to expel it, or despair at its potential to collapse everything. Perhaps instead, we should listen. Listen to the faint, discordant click triggered by that dust. It might not be the death knell of collapse, but the universe reminding us, look here, an unanticipated interface, a previously unexplored fissure. True navigation may not lie in charging straight ahead along a golden predetermined track, but in maintaining the sensitivity to detect and respond to every subtle click, and in preserving, even inside the mightiest vessel, a small chamber where the scraps are allowed to whisper and resonate. There, the trembling of a single grain of dust might become the most secret compass to chart a new course. Now, let's analyze the contestants with clear, accessible science. From a mass perspective, the contest seems absurdly one-sided. A full-grown male lion averages 190 kg, while a standard Big Mac weighs merely 230 green, a mass ratio of approximately 826.1. According to Newton's second law, F refers to ma, when a lion charges at its top speed of 22.2 ms, about 80 km/h, its momentum, P or mv, reaches a staggering 4218 km/ms. Assuming a collision time of 0.1 seconds, the resulting impact force would reach about 42,180 newtons. That's roughly 4.3 metric tons of force. Such power could instantly pulverize any conventional food structure. However, physics teaches us that victory in battle isn't determined solely by mass and velocity. Despite its mechanical disadvantage, the Big Mac's unique architecture conceals ingenious engineering. Standing 10.5 centimeters tall, its triple-layer composite structure mirrors the principles of a sandwich panel design. The sesame buns form outer skins with a density of about 0.3 gcm3, while the inner core of beef, vegetables, and sauces has a density near 1.1 gcm3. From composite mechanics, the bending stiffness, EI, of such a structure can be calculated using the formula EI, E or F, a TF, Vychichef 2 play, ek, day, A, J, stu, bay 12, where EF and E are the elastic moduli of the face layers and core material, respectively. The buns have an elastic modulus around 0.5 MPa, while the core is about 2 MPa. The Big Mac's chemistry is even more fascinating. This seemingly simple food is, in truth, a complex chemical reactor containing over 300 different chemical compounds, proteins, fatty acids, complex carbohydrates, and dozens of aromatic molecules. Using gas chromatography mass spectrometry, one can detect volatile organic compounds such as 2-methylbutanol, 3-methylbutanol, and benzaldehyde. These molecules diffuse through air at roughly 10 to 5 millibosess per Fick's law, forming a molecular cloud with a radius of about 50 centimeters or 30 seconds. The lion, as a biological system, possesses an extraordinary sense of smell. With around 200 million olfactory cells, 40 times more than humans, the lion can detect odor thresholds as low as 10 to 12 mol kistas L. When Big Mac's complex aroma molecules reach the lion's olfactory epithelium, they bind to specific receptor proteins, triggering a cascade of signals. This involves G-protein-coupled receptor activation, CAMP production, and sodium ion channel opening, ultimately producing nerve impulses sent to the brain. Thermodynamically, the Big Mac stores about 2,360 kJ of chemical energy, approximately 564 kcal's. These energies are stored in CH, CC, and CO chemical bonds. As these bonds break during digestion, they release energy for biological functions. For a lion requiring about 15,000 kcal daily, a single Big Mac provides merely 3.8% of its daily energy needs. However, its high energy density, 1 to 2.5 kcal/g, strongly attracts the lion's feeding instincts. Imagine the scenario: as the lion approaches the Big Mac, it's engulfed in a storm of unfamiliar chemical signals. The burger sauce's mysterious 17 ingredients include organic acids like acetic and citric acid, with pKa values around 3 to 5, partially dissociating near neutral pH to produce sour flavor signals. Onion-derived thiosulfonates are volatile sulfur compounds with vapor pressures around 10 Pa, producing sharp, pungent odors. The lion's brain becomes overwhelmed, simultaneously activating its hippocampus and amygdala to match these smells to known food patterns while assessing potential threats. Yet the Big Mac's chemical fingerprint doesn't exist in nature. This cognitive dissonance could temporarily scramble the lion's behavioral algorithms. Neuroscience studies show that mammals facing unknown stimuli release more dopamine, a neurotransmitter that fuels curiosity and exploratory behavior. At this moment, the Big Mac reveals its tactical advantage. Its motionless state doesn't trigger the lion's pursuit instinct. Ethologists know that large felines' hunting behaviors are mainly activated by moving targets. A stationary object is often categorized as non-prey. Such thanatosis tactics, playing dead, are common survival strategies in nature. Even more magical is the Big Mac's chemical warfare. During grilling, the beef undergoes the Maillard reaction, a complex chemical process between amino acids and reducing sugars, typically occurring at 140–165 degrees Celsius. This reaction produces hundreds of flavorful compounds, pyrazines, thiazoles, furans, many of which not only smell enticing, but also stimulate mammalian brain reward pathways, releasing endorphins and dopamine, the so-called happy hormones. From a molecular dynamics viewpoint, when the lion's olfactory molecules bind with the Big Mac's aroma compounds, conformational changes occur, releasing free energies around 20 to 50 kJ/mol, sufficient to drive biochemical reactions that ultimately translate into macroscopic behavioral shifts. The lion faces a difficult decision process. Its prefrontal cortex weighs options: attack, retreat, or eat. The burger's high protein, approximately 25 g, and fat, approximately 33 g, content send clear chemical signals that it's a high-value food source, yet the artificial additives trigger instinctive warning signals. At this point, quantum chemistry enters the fray. Complex molecules in the burger sauce form unique 3D structures through van der Waals forces, hydrogen bonds, and hydrophobic interactions. These interactions, individually weak, -1 to 10 kJ/mol, can collectively produce significant biological effects. Binding to olfactory receptors alters the electronic cloud distributions of receptor proteins, initiating cascading signal transduction. Thus, the Big Mac's attack is cunning and unique. It doesn't rely on brute force but redefines the battlefield via chemical manipulation. Sesame seeds contain lignans like sesamin and sesamolin with antioxidant properties that scavenge free radicals. When detected by the lion's olfactory system, they might signal health food. Starch in the buns breaks down upon contact with saliva into maltose, which further splits into glucose. This enzymatic reaction follows Michaelis-Menten kinetics, Km5 mmol/L, with the rate described by VCR Vmax, GAPARS, Km+S. Glucose stimulates sweet taste receptors, members of the G-protein coupled receptor family, activating neural sweet pathways. The result? When the lion's claws first touch the burger's soft surface, the bun undergoes elastic deformation per Hooke's law, F. Jascher's Kx. The minimal resistance feels utterly alien to the lion's hunting experience, potentially inducing a momentary behavioral freeze. In this critical pause, sauces ooze forth, releasing a surge of potent aromatic compounds. The lion's brain endures a flurry of chemical processing. The amygdala releases norepinephrine, heightening alertness, while the hypothalamus secretes gastrin, stimulating appetite. This contradictory neurochemical storm can provoke hesitation and confusion. At this point, the Big Mac has successfully converted a physical confrontation into a chemical-psychological battle. Thermodynamically, The second law states that all systems tend toward increased entropy, a shift from order to disorder. The lion, as a highly ordered biological system, must continuously expend energy to maintain structure and function. The Big Mac, meanwhile, offers precisely the energy required. Its tactic is not to resist entropy, but to cleverly exploit the lion's instinctive struggle against entropy's rise. In this cross-species showdown, the very definition of victory blurs. Should the lion ultimately choose to eat the Big Mac, then in a sense the burger has fulfilled its essential purpose, as food sustaining life. This victory in defeat embodies a profound wisdom from chemistry and biology. True power lies not in destruction, but in transformation and integration. In the end, the lion ate the burger, but spat out the vegetables and the 3 layers of buns.